Hi, this is Munson with Munson Music. I'm going to talk about how you could play a song called Lord I Seek You by Witt. And there's this really cool little lead guitar part actually at the very beginning if you wanted to kind of play around with this. You could do open D and then 7th fret on the G string and then open D and then 7th fret on the B string, and I'm kind of doing that as kind of like a little mini bar over the 7th fret with the first finger, and then go 7th fret on the G. So you got kind of holding down that 7th fret on the G and B. You got 07, 07, 7, or D, G, D, B, G, D, G, D, B, G, D, G, B. And at the very end, if you take the pinky, you can kind of go over the high E string and the B string on the 10th fret as kind of a little bar, and kind of do the E string and the B string. So all together you're kind of going D, 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 F sharp, D, 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 F sharp, D, 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 F sharp, D, 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 A. And then that whole intro part though would be backed up by a D major chord. There's a couple different ones you may want to play around with through the song. If you take your first finger and go to the G string on the 2nd fret, 2nd finger on the high E string on the 2nd fret, and 3rd finger on the B string on the 3rd fret, if you take those and kind of strum just the D, G, B, and E, that sounds a D major chord that sounds really happy. Now through this song, you'll kind of hear while we're on the D chord, kind of switching to something called D sus. And the way you play D sus is if you take the pinky from the D chord and kind of add it in on the high E string on the 3rd fret, it sounds like D sus, or D suspended chord. And then sometimes it almost sounds like we make it all the way to the 5th fret on the high E string, kind of around that D chord, where you do first finger on the G string 2nd, 2nd finger on the B string 3rd, and the pinky on the high E on the 5th, which is kind of a D5. So you can kind of switch between that D major, D sus, D5, D sus. So you could kind of make that D interesting by kind of switching around with those. And you may even be able to make that 5th fret stretch with the pinky. But a lot of times with a song like this, to make it more interesting, I like adding something called a strum pattern. We'll talk about a couple with this. But one of my favorite strum patterns for a 4/4 is down, down, up, up, down, up. So take the D and just try that out. You have down, down, up, down, up, 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 down. So you can kind of use that for your intro. Now one other strum pattern I would think about is working off of something called a 16th note strum pattern. And what I mean by that is if you're tapping your foot to the beat, right now we're kind of dividing that into 2 parts. 1, 2, 1, 2, and that's called an 8th note. What a 16th note is where you divide that into 4 parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And one of my favorite 16th note strum patterns is long down, 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 up, up, down, down, up, down, up. And what I mean by that is if you take the D and do it down for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what you're doing on the first beat. Then on the second beat, you're doing it down on 1, down on 3, up on 4. So you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. And then on the third beat, you're doing it up on 2, down on 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, up, down, 1, up, down, 1, up, down. And then on the last beat, you're going down, up, right along with the 1, 2, 3, 4. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So all together you got down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. So you want to play around with that for your intro. And then from there we'd be going into our verses, and our verses stay on the D major for 4 measures, and then we go to a G major chord. There's a couple ways you may want to play around with G major. You do first finger on the high E string, or on the A string on the 2nd fret, 2nd finger on the low E string on the 3rd fret, and the 3rd finger on the high E string on the 3rd fret. That's your regular G major chord, and sounds really happy. Now you would kind of hear a little bit where we almost kind of do something called G major 7. If you took your 3rd finger and kind of slid it down 1 fret on the high E string, that's something called G major 7. So it's kind of working around that F sharp note the D is working off of. The G major is working off of the G note, the G sus is working off of. You may want to take your pinky and try and make it to the high on the 5th and kind of add in that A note to the G chord. You'll kind of hear how they're playing around with that in the recording. Another G major chord is actually something I call a drone voicing for G, but you may want to play around with this too, where you put the 3rd finger on the B string on the 3rd fret and the pinky on the high E string on the 3rd fret. And if you strum all those together, that's another way you can play your G major. So there's a couple different ways you could work it. So we tried our verse with our down, down, up, up, down, up. We'd have D with a down, down, up, down, up, D, down, down, up, down, up, D, down, down, up, down, D, down, down, up, pattern would have to do the down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, D, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, D, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, D, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, G, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, G, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, D, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, D, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, up. And then from there, then we'd be going into our bridge part. And our bridge goes to kind of an F sharp minor. We'll talk about a really easy cheat actually for this chord. But the way you normally play F sharp minor, you do first finger across your entire second fret, third finger on the A string, fourth fret, and the pinky on the D string on the fourth fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds like F sharp minor chord, and it sounds really, really sad. Now a good substitute for that in this song actually I think would be something called a D sus / F sharp. And then when you play that, if you do first finger on the low E string on the second fret, second finger on the G string, second fret, and third finger on the B string on the third fret, and the pinky on the high E string on the third fret, kind of like our G chord. That's something called D sus / F sharp. We want to kind of use that for the F sharp minor. And then from the F sharp minor, we go to the G major, and then we do another G major, and then we go to a B minor chord. When we play B minor, it's a second fret bar, a second finger on the B string, third fret, third finger on the D string, fourth fret, and the pinky on the G string on the fourth fret. If you strum all those together, that sounds a B minor chord, and it sounds really, really sad. Now a good cheat for that actually would be using something called a B minor 7, or one version of B minor 7, where just like the F sharp, or D sus / F sharp, you could put the first finger now on the A string on the second fret, keep the second finger on the G string second, third finger on the B string third, and the pinky on the high E string third. And if you strum the A string to the high E string, that's kind of a good substitute for the B minor. So it just puts it one finger away from the F sharp that we're using. So you got B minor, and then from there, then we're going to be going to an A major chord. And the way you play A major, first finger is going to go to the D string on the second fret, second finger is going to go to the G string on the second fret, and third finger is going to go to the B on the second fret. If you strum all those together, that sounds like A major chord, and it sounds really, really happy. Now a good substitute for that in the song though, I think would be something called A7 sus, where you do first finger on the D second, second finger on the G string second, then take the third finger and go to the B string third, and then take the pinky and go to the high E string on the third. And that's something called A7 sus, and we want to think about using that. And then from the A, we're going to be going back to the F sharp minor, or the D sus / F sharp, and then the G major, and at the very end we go to an E minor chord. And the way you play E minor, first finger goes to the A on the second fret, second finger on the D string on the second fret, and if you strum all those together, that sounds like E minor chord, and it sounds really, really sad. Now because of all those voicings where we're doing the third fret on the B and the E string, you could kind of take the third finger and add it in on the B third, and the pinky on the high E string third, and that's something called E minor 7, so you may want to think about kind of substituting that in. So through that whole chorus, actually, if you're working those drone voicings, you could kind of work it so that you never actually have to move the third finger and the fourth finger, which could be very cool, especially if you're just starting out. So you could just kind of work it as kind of / F sharp, and then that E minor 7, just kind of keep that 3 and 4 down. Now the weird part with our strum pattern though is a lot of those chords half. So when we get to that first F sharp minor G, we just do a down, down, up on each of those chords. So we tried our chorus, or our bridge with our down, down, up, down, up. We'd have kind of F sharp with a down, down, G, down, down, G, down, down, up, down, B minor, down, down, up, A, down, down, up, A, down, down, up, down, F sharp, down, down, G, down, down, B minor, down, down, up, down, up. Or if we try it with our 16th pattern, then when we get to those halving parts, we could just do the first part of the strum pattern. So we could just kind of take the down, 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 up for those chords. So we tried it that way, we'd have F sharp minor, down, 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 G, down, 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 G, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, B minor, down, 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 A, down, 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 up, A, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, F sharp, down, down, G, down, 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 B minor, down, down, up, down, down, down. And then from there, then we'd be going into an instrumental part that's just like our verse. Now one other thing I would think about adding to the song though is bass notes. And a lot of times on the first down of the down, down, up, down, up, or the down, 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 up, down, down, up, you could throw in a bass note for the chord. So on the D chord you could do the D for the bass, and then on the G chord you'd have the low E string for your bass. And then when we get to it, on the F F sharp minor or the D sus slash F sharp, you can do the low string for your bass. Low bass. And then on the G, you got low bass. On the B minor, we got the A string for your bass. And then on the A major, or the A7 sus, we got A major or the A string for the bass. And on the E minor, you'd have the low string for the bass. So we took that next verse with kind of our bass down, up, down, up. We'd have D with the bass, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, up, down, G with the low bass, down, up, down, G with the low bass, down, down, D with the D bass, down, down, D with the D bass, down, down, or if we tried that with our 16th pattern, we have D with the D bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, G with the low bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, G with the low bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Now we can also add basses to that bridge part. So we tried that. The weird part is where we were having things with down, down, up. Now it's going to become a bass down, up. So we tried it that way. You'd have F sharp with low bass, down up, G with the low bass, down up, G with the low bass, down up, down B minor with an A bass, down up, A with an A bass, down up, A with an A bass, down up, down F sharp with low bass, down G with the low bass, down up, B minor with low bass, down up, down up. And actually on those later bridges, it almost sounds like we kind of go to the D as kind of a waiting move. So we can do the D with kind of the bass down up, down up. Or if we tried that with our 16th in basses, then we'd have a lot of places where we'd have just bass down, down through the bridge. So we tried it that way. We'd have F sharp, down, down, G, low E bass, down, down, G, low E bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, B minor with an A bass, down, down, A with an A bass, down, down, A with an A bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, F sharp, low E bass, down, down, G, low E bass, down, down, G minor, low E bass, down, 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 up, down, D with the D bass, down, 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 D with the D bass, down, 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 down. And then from there, then we'd be going into our outro. And our outro just kind of takes that last little piece of our bridge, that E minor, D, D on those later bridges, and then kind of repeats that twice. And then at the very end, we kind of have a halving from the D and a G, and then we end up back on a D major. So we tried that with a kind of our bass down, up, down, up. We'd have E minor with a bass, down, down, D with the D bass, down, down, D with the D bass, down, down, E minor with the bass, down, down, D with the D bass, down, down, D with the D bass, down, down, D with the D bass, down, G with low E bass, down, up, big D. Or if we tried that with our bass 16th pattern, we'd have E minor with a bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, E minor with the low E bass, down, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, down, up, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, down, up, down, up, down, D with the D bass, down, down, G with low E bass, down, a big D. But that's the basics of how you can strum through Lord I Seek You by Marcus Witt. So good luck!